Hello again, everybody. As you get started here with Chapter 9, the directions for starting a ASP.NET project just look a little bit different in Visual Studio 2019 as opposed to the screenshots in the book, which were made with Visual Studio 2017. So in order to start the type of project that you would need to do the guided program development, from the Visual Studio launch screen here, you can go to Create New Project. And when that comes up, you should see a bunch of new options here that weren't here before. So like the third option down for me says ASP.NET Web Application .NET Framework. And maybe the most important piece of this is it says you can create ASP.NET Web Forms, MVC, or Web API applications and add many other features in ASP.NET. So we're going to be creating web forms in Chapter 9. So using this generic ASP.NET Web Application piece here is a really good place to start. Now, if some of you have been using C# on your computer, you want to make sure that the one you are selecting says Visual Basic. And up here in the filter box, I have Visual Basic selected. So if you see C# anywhere, you want to make sure this is the Visual Basic version of an ASP.NET Web application that you're creating. So I'll go ahead and select that and click Next. And the project name for the guided program development is Glamping. So I will put Glamping right there. And when I hit Create, it's going to give me a screen that looks like this. And you don't really have to do much here. I've got web forms highlighted as the selection here. You want to do that. And you want to make sure that web forms is checked right over here in Add Folders and Core References. And configure for HTTPS is totally fine to leave that checked as well. And then I'll hit Create. It takes just a second, as it always does in Visual Studio, to get your project up and running. And you'll notice when you look at the file and folder structure for an ASP.NET project that there's a lot of stuff in there, and the folders are just a little more comprehensive than what they have been with many of our earlier Visual Studio projects. Alright, when Visual Studio finishes loading, for me, in Visual Studio 2019, this is the screen that I'm getting. The guided program development and even the chapter reading in the book show things as being just a little bit different. So I'm going to show you how I set this up. And the instructions after this are exactly as they are. Because as you guys know, like once you get to this screen in Visual Studio, it pretty much looks the same as 2017. It's just getting here through that new Start splash screen can sometimes be a little bit confusing. So, like step 1 of the guided program development wants us to show the formatting toolbar. And the reason why they're doing that is we have a lot of text and formatting that we want to do on essentially a web page. So if you go up to View and Toolbars, you should see the formatting toolbar right here. I've already selected mine. It's already showing up for me, but you want to make sure that's checked so that you can see the formatting toolbar. Alright, after that, to get to the view that you see in the book, if you look at the Solution Explorer over here on your right and scroll down, you can see site.master right here. So if you double-click site.master, it'll open up essentially the HTML code of your site.master file here. And to view the GUI version of this, the easiest way to get there is to go View, Designer. Very similar to how we would have done in any Visual Studio project. And here is where you can start editing. I think the first step is you're changing this to Moonbeam Glamping instead of application name. And from this point on, everything matches exactly as it does in the book. So if you get lost, most of what you're doing here is going to be in this site.master feature here, and you have the same design view and code view that we're used to in Visual Studio. So if you pull both of those up, you can flip back and forth as needed right here. So if you run into any issues getting this up and running, feel free to let me know. I'm glad to meet you on Teams, and we'll get it worked out. Thanks.